To present our next award, please welcome Congressman Peter Roskam of Illinois.
Thanks very much. So I just want to tell you a story. A few years ago, maybe 10 or 12 or something, I don't even remember, I was sitting with my wife, Elizabeth, and we are watching a soccer game, and our daughter, Frankie, was playing with another little girl named Grace, and they're little soccer players scurrying around, and those of you know what that's like. You're sitting out in the rain, and you're drinking your coffee, and you're looking here, and you're looking there, and we got to know this nice young couple that's just like us. It was Bill and Cathy Perkowitz. And over a period of time, I came to learn that Bill Perkowitz was suffering from early onset of Alzheimer's. And this was a guy who was my age, and this is a guy who I met on the side of a soccer field, and this is a guy who I could completely relate to, and yet I didn't really have a deep appreciation for that story until a few years later. I end up in Congress, and I get contacted by that nice lady, Cathy Perkowitz. And we'd kept up the friendship over the years and kept up the acquaintanceship, and we'd see one another at the library or at the grocery store, and a little bit of how are you and how's Bill and a little bit of chit-chat. But Cathy invited me to go with her to see her husband Bill in a care center, in a long-term care facility. And she said, "Would you come? Peter, would you come?" And I said, "Of course." So I had the opportunity that day to go up and visit with Bill. And you know what was interesting to me? I'm not a physician, but what was interesting to me was to interact and to see Bill and to be sitting there with Cathy and for her to tell her story. And importantly, for her to open herself up to tell her story and to help me have a deeper understanding and a deeper appreciation for the journey that she had been on. And so what was significant for me was her persuasiveness and her tenacity. And she would show up at my office and she would say, "These are these things that, Peter, you need to know about this. These are these bills. Would you be willing to look at this and co-sponsor this and all that?" And what was significant is because of the personal connection and because of her invitation for me to go see Bill, I was able to learn more about this journey that she had been on. And the more I learned, frankly, the more I realized I didn't know and the more I needed to learn. And so we're here to honor someone today who has done a significant thing, and she's a role model for a lot of us, and here's why. Sometimes there's a great temptation to take loss and to be completely buried by it, and to be completely defined by it, and to be completely paralyzed by it. But Cathy chose to do a different thing. She and Grace and her son Matthew have suffered a grievous loss. And the grievous loss is the nature of this disease that has come in and has ravaged Bill. But rather than being defined by that, she's decided to redeem that loss. And so she invited me to come along on a journey with her, and she has opened my eyes. And I think what she has communicated through the beauty of her story and her willingness to share it so profoundly is that we are all in this together. We are all in this together. And so I want you to join me in congratulating somebody who I think we can all look to and we can all admire and we can all say, thank you for taking loss and turning it into something beautiful. Will you please welcome Cathy Perkowitz. There you go. Just scratch that right there.
Thank you. Wow. Most of you know, or those who know me, I'm not a public speaker. I don't write speeches because I'm not good at reading them off the teleprompter. I like to speak from my heart. This is such a great honor to be honored as Advocate of the Year, especially among those people that I admire the most, my fellow ambassadors, advocates, the tired yet determined caregivers, those living with Alzheimer's disease, and those on our side. As Peter said, my husband Bill, I'm here because of my husband Bill. At the age of 52, he was diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. When he was diagnosed, his oldest daughter, Nicole, was 21, and our children, Grace and Matthew, were not even teenagers. And I can kind of relate to that 45% not getting a diagnosis because I had to fight tooth and nail to get that diagnosis. And it came several years after it should have in 2006. Bill was a highly intelligent, excellent communicator, had so much to offer. He was my husband. He still is my husband. He's the father of our children. And when he was diagnosed, I was at a very low point. I was very sad thinking that his children had to have a father with Alzheimer's disease. But I decided that I was not going to let this disease take over our lives or define who we are. And I am grateful that the Alzheimer's Association came into my life at a time when I needed the most. After Bill was in a placed into a long-term care facility, I began working with the Alzheimer's Association on advocacy issues. I liked working with the Alzheimer's Association because I always felt that their asks were smart. They knew to ask what they thought might pass during a very difficult time during a recession. And with my story and their numbers, and all our stories, we've been able to make a difference. I first came to this forum 6 years ago, and maybe less than half of the people, there were maybe 400 people at the forum at that time. And since then, it has grown so much. And I know that many people here feel the same as I do, that it just provides so much energy to those suffering with Alzheimer's disease and to the caregivers. Sometimes there are many lonely moments dealing with this disease. We will all go home and continue to deal with this disease, most of us. But this journey has been something I've learned a lot. Again, Peter talks about how he knew Bill and me prior to Bill's diagnosis, actually, and he was kind enough to come visit Bill in the long-term care facility. At that time, I had my own little chart saying, this is the financial impact it's had on me. Peter was sympathetic, understanding, and I don't think at that time he knew quite what he could do for me, but I knew he was a supporter. Shortly thereafter, when I became an ambassador for the Alzheimer's Association, I was assigned to Peter Roskam, and that was kind of convenient. And so we went to his office, and it was my dear friend Susan Guerra, Jen Belko from the Alzheimer's Association, and myself. And I presented, of course, my story, which he already sort of knew, and Jen had all the numbers from the Alzheimer's Association, and he listened. And as he listened, it was as if a light went off, and he said, "Hey, your chart is just like mine." And he pulled out his chart on Medicare going bankrupt in 2015 if we don't do something about the high costs of health care. So, that being said, Peter Roskam has been a great supporter of mine and friend, and I am so grateful. At this point, along with the Alzheimer's Association, I would like to thank the Greater Illinois Alzheimer's Association, in particular, Jen Belkov. Her tireless efforts and support of advocates is incredible. I also would like to thank Erna and Andrew from the Alzheimer's Association, my dear friends Susan and Doug, and all of my fellow advocates in Illinois, sitting over there. I'd like to thank my sisters, because my parents taught my sisters and I that it was so important to pay attention to family, and my sisters have been supportive of me from the very beginning. Sue, my sister, is here, and my sister Julie could not attend, and their husbands, and then Bill's sister Cathy and her husband Mike have been great supporters. In addition, I've been able to come to this forum because I've been able to stay with Bill's brother and twin, Bob, and his wife, Lisa, at their lovely home in DC, and I'd like to thank them as well. But mostly, I want you to know how proud I am of Bill's children, Nicole, Grace, and Matthew are all success stories, and they are all part of Bill. And even though Bill sits in a long-term care facility still, and by the way, please visit your loved ones at facilities as often as you can, it's very important. I am so proud that his children are here tonight to honor their father, who loved them more than anything. Thank you.